Good day, my name is Dr. Jenkins. I've been studying the extra-dimensional incursions for the past 10 years with the fine women and men of the Order of Merlin. Officially, I'm a researcher for the Knights of St. George. However, due to my fascination with the Fae, I was able to transfer over with the Cooperative Research Initiative. Over the last decade, I've been able to make Wales my home and think of myself as an honorary Welshman. Now that introductions are done, we can begin. I've been tasked by the High Druid herself to create a series of instructional videos for all new aspiring hunters to learn the tools of the trade. In my first foray into this bright new world of instructional videos, I used an audio recording of two hunters on their way to deal with a sprig tree. This, however, proved troublesome, as the lead hunter was unwilling to continue, and upon viewing, it did not offer full clarity. Instead, I shall continue to include the journal notes of the junior hunter, but instead offer my own commentary, instead of recordings of the two's casual conversations. In this instructional video, I'll be discussing the eldritch sphere, the main tools to combat it, and best practices for dispatch. The eldritch sphere is by far the most difficult to research or discuss, as theirs is the most incompatible with our own. This total incompatibility has become their greatest weapon against us, as to view, hear, or feel both directly and indirectly are damaging to the human psyche, to thankfully varying extents. To begin with, as given as an example in the attached notebook, secondary exposure. With secondary exposure, such as an accurate written description, photograph, or audio recording, an individual will suffer with one or more of the following symptoms depending on the source of the information. These include, but are not limited to, migraines, visual hallucinations, audio hallucinations, physical hallucinations, memory loss, reciprocal actions, loss of appetite, and déjà vu. The Master Hunter referred to in the notebook offers a quite clever suggestion in regards to instructing the junior to write what it looks like instead of what it is, as this is the only way to gain a usable description without suffering severe brain damage. However, I should say, I feel it falls upon me to explain why the Master Hunter showed a photograph of an eldritch creature to the junior. The ritual is called the scrambling. The photograph in question was taken back in the 1970s by pure chance, but since then it's become a rite of passage for older hunters to check the mental fortitude of their apprentices. This action is not endorsed by the Order of Merlin, and holds no practical benefit. Of course, from the description given by the younger hunter, they were dealing with a primary exposure is a different beast entirely, and must be avoided at all costs without protective equipment. Symptoms of primary exposure include loss of bodily function, extreme memory loss, total loss of self-preservation instinct, immediate self-mutilation, total nihilistic disorder, random onset phobias, and random onset philias. Even in the incredibly unlikely case of survival after primary exposure without an MMB, there is no chance of recovery. Due to the widespread of eldritch incursions, with there not being a single place on Earth with human habitation that has not suffered such incursions, you'd assume that theirs would be the sphere we know the most about. However, due to their very nature, the exact opposite is in fact the case. One of the very scant pieces of information we do have is that they are, or at least seem to be, directly affected by belief, not by ours, but by their own. It appears whatever they believe to be true is, by the very simple fact that they believe it, made true. We do not think this is a conscious ability, but rather an automatic action built around some fundamental law of their universe. This ability has led to the only way of dealing with an eldritch being to be fooling it into believing that it should in fact be dead. This is far easier with a lesser being such as the one our hunters are targeting. The overall goal should be to increase the degrees of separation between your action and the death of the creature. Mousetrap is a very fitting comparison. However, nothing should be attempted without a mind mimic box, the most important singular piece of equipment for anyone interacting with an eldritch being. The Mind Mimic Box, or MMB, is a fascinating device created by the American organisation RRR, working in conjunction with the Irish MPD. A landmark creation using crystals created by a specific fey creature, the device creates a facsimile of the user's mind. Upon first contact with the crystal by human skin, the crystal itself will warp and change into an exact, albeit mineral copy of the person's brain. Fully conscious and capable of independent thought, the mind in the box, which for all intents and purposes is a perfect copy of the user, will immediately begin to panic at the realization that it is the mind in the box and not the user. A link will also be created between the two, which is where the benefits of the device become apparent. Any and all changes to the mind that are inflicted after touching the crystal will instead be done to the facsimile. This has some interesting effects, as although a person with an active MMB can still form new memories, the brain structure is unable to change until the crystal is destroyed. This means that the user cannot form new habits, ways of thinking, or suffer any traumas while the device is whole. Due to the unsavory nature of the device, it is common practice to destroy the crystal after use to alleviate the suffering of the crystalline mind. Remember, when dealing with an incursion entity, your greatest weapon will always be preparedness. Our detailed library will always be available to all registered hunters, and the Order of Merlin is happy to offer specialized equipment at a reasonable price. Remember that all experienced hunters, not just those you are apprenticing with, will be willing to offer advice to aid in your future hunts. Remember that if you are not 100% confident in your ability to hunt a specific target, you can always turn a bounty back into the order for a small penalty fee. Other hunters will happily take up the call. Remember, you are the first and last line of defense against the incursions for whales, and as such, you are vital to the protection of your friends and loved ones. Remember, no matter how much damage you take, both physically and mentally, your sacrifice is worth it for the continued survival of mankind. Before we wrap up, I'd like to make a plea to all young hunters watching this to impress on your mentors the importance of capture bounties. Not only do they pay a much higher fee, but they allow we at the Order to continue our research into these entities, making the design and manufacture of tools for combating these creatures far easier. I'd very much like to thank you for your time today and sincerely hope that this presentation aids you in your career as a freelance hunter. With Arthur's might and Merlin's wisdom, thank you.